Welcome back to educator.com. For the next lesson, we're going to go over the coordinate plane. So this right here is called the coordinate plane. Now it consists of two lines like this. This right here, the horizontal line, is called the x-axis. The vertical line is the y-axis. Okay, together they make up the coordinate plane. Now think of the coordinate plane as like a map. Okay, it's a map, and we're going to place points along this map, and we have to label each point based on the x-axis and the y-axis. Okay, so that's the coordinate plane. Now these axes, the x-axis and the y-axis, break the coordinate plane into four sections, right? So 1, 2, 3, 4. Those four sections are called quadrants. Quadrants. The first quadrant is this space right here. This is called quadrant 1. Then going over to this side, this is quadrant 2. Then down, this is quadrant 3. And the last one is quadrant 4. So those are the four sections of the coordinate plane. Now, each axis is numbered, it's labeled. So here, this point right here is going to start off at 0. And it's going to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and so on. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Again, this is 0. Then this way, it's going to go negative. So see how it goes positive this way? If you go the other way, it's going to go negative. Negative 1, negative 2, negative 3, negative 4, negative 5, and so on. Same thing for the y-axis. If you go upwards, it's going to go positive. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And these arrows, the arrows represent continuation. It's going to keep going on forever. So if it doesn't just stop at 5. Okay, it's going to keep going. And then down this way, it's going to be negative. Negative 1, negative 2, negative 3, negative 4, negative 5. Okay. So then next, right here, our x-axis, the number on the x-axis paired with the number on the y-axis is going to give us an ordered pair. Okay, so you're going to look for the x-axis and the number on the x, the number on the y. Together, it's going to map out your location on the coordinate plane, and that point is called an ordered pair. So it's going to be written like this. In parentheses, you're going to have two numbers. The first number is going to be your x number. That's called the x-coordinate. X-coordinate. And then the second number is going to be your y-coordinate. Okay, so it's always going to be x and then y. X always has to come first. Okay, so x comma y for short. X comma y. That is going to be your ordered pair. Okay, that's going to map out your location on the coordinate plane. This point where the x-axis and the y-axis meet, that is called the origin. Okay, that's right there. And if you look at the x number, okay, is 0, right? The x number is 0, and the y number is also 0. So the origin is 0, 0. That is the ordered pair for the origin. Now if I put a point right here, okay, on the coordinate plane, that ordered pair, what's the x number? Now, if you look, this point is paired with an x number and a y number, right? So this point is going to have an x number of 3 and a y number of 1. So the ordered pair for this point is 3, 1. Be careful that you don't, mix those up, switch them up, okay? It's not 1, 3. That's not the same thing. 1, 3. If I say 1, 3, because I said 1 first, that means I'm talking about 1 on the x-axis. So 1, 3 would be 1 on the x, 3 on the y, and where do they meet? Right there. That would be 1, 3. So 1, 3 and 3, 1 are not the same thing. You have to be careful with that, okay? Always make sure the first number is your x-coordinate on the x-axis, the horizontal line. The second number is your y-axis, the number on your vertical line. Okay, so that's the coordinate plane. Again, we have the x-axis, the y-axis. Each of the 4 sections are called quadrants. It starts off this right here, quadrant 1, quadrant 2, quadrant 3, and quadrant 4. Remember when you're writing out the numbers, this number is always 0. Okay, so it's going to go positive to the right and negative to the left. On the y-axis, positive when you go up, negative when you go down. Okay, and now everything together, the coordinate plane, which is like the map, right? The ordered pairs, the quadrants, all of this that have to do with these, points, the plane, all that is called the coordinate system. Okay, it's like a system of all these things together. Okay, so the again, coordinate plane. Each of these are just marked for you. We have 3 points, A, B, and C. Here's A, here's B, and here's C. We want to write the coordinates. So in other words, we want to know the ordered pairs. Find the ordered pairs of A, B, and C. So we know that this is the X, right? And that is the Y. Let's start with A. This point right here. What is the X number that makes up this point? 1. What is the Y number? 1. So for A, my X number, the number on my X-axis is 1. The number on the Y-axis is 1. So the ordered pair, or the coordinates, for A is 1, 1. And I'm just going to write, because this is the name of the point, right? This is A is what that point is labeled. So you can just write it in front of that ordered pair. Next is B. B, okay, so again, I'm looking for the X number first. The X number, the number on this X-axis that makes up this B is -1. And the Y number, -2. And they're negative numbers, but it's fine. You're just listing them out like that, the same way as when you have positive numbers. Okay, -1, comma, -2. The next one is C. The X number for C is 2. The Y number for C is -1. Okay, and those are the coordinates for A, B, and C. Okay, so then we're going to, let's do our examples now. Graph each point on the coordinate plane. Okay, the first one, A, is 4, 2. 4, 2. Remember, this is the X number. This is the Y number. And label this as X, this as Y. Okay, so 4, you're going to look for 4 on the X-axis. So 4, this is -4. Here's 4. Okay? And then look for 2 on the Y-axis. So here's 2. So where do they meet? Right there. So this is A. So I can label that point as A. Then next, B is -3, 0. So the X is -3, the Y is 0. So -3 on the X is right here. 0 on the y, where is 0? 0 is right there. So negative 3 comma 0, that means I'm not moving any up or any down, right? Because there's no y. If the y was 1, I would have to move up 1. If y was negative 1, I'd have to move down 1. But y is 0, so I stay here. That is my B. Okay, and then next, x, y, 2 is x, so 2 is x, y is 1. So where do they meet? Right there. That is C. The next is negative 4, negative 2. Negative 4 on the x is right there. Negative 2 on the y is right there. So then right there, they intersect at that point right there. And that point is called D. Okay? So that's it for this example. The next one, write the coordinates and quadrant for each point. So it's like the same thing that we just did a couple examples ago. So first, let's start with A. Remember, this is my x, this is my y. Look for the x that makes up this point right here. A is negative 1. It's my x, and then y is a negative 3. And then we also have to state what quadrant it's in. So remember that this right here, this section, any points that fall in this section right here is quadrant 1. This section is quadrant 2, quadrant 3, and quadrant 4. If a point is on, let's say this right here, okay, that doesn't fall under any quadrants. That wouldn't be considered quadrant 1 or quadrant 4. In that case, you're just going to say that it's on the x-axis. Or in this case, if a point lands right here, then it's not in quadrant 3 or 4, it's actually on the y-axis. Okay, and then, so this quadrant, point A is in quadrant 3, so let's just say quadrant 3. B, point B is x is 1, y is 2. So 1 comma 2, and that's in quadrant 1. C, it's right there, so 3 as my x, negative 1 as my y, that's in quadrant 4. D, x is negative 3, y is 3. And that's quadrant 2. Okay, example 3, name 2 points from each of the 4 quadrants. Okay, so it's a little bit hard to do when you don't have the coordinate plane, right? So let's draw out a coordinate plane. We don't have to draw it too big because we're not going to be plotting any points. Here's the x, here's the y. I know this is quadrant 1, quadrant 2, quadrant 3, and quadrant 4. Now, the trick here is to figure out whether my x coordinates are going to be positive, negative, and my y coordinates are going to be positive or negative, right? So quadrant 1, if you look here, all of the points that have this as my x and this as my y, right? Any points that pair up with this part of my x, that point part of my y is going to be in quadrant 1, right? Now I know that here, as I get to these numbers, it's going to be positive. It's positive 1, positive 2, positive 3, so on. So my x coordinate is going to be positive. It's a positive number. Positive. And then my y coordinate is also going to be positive, right? Because these are positive numbers here. So positive, positive. So any ordered pair that has a positive number paired with a positive y number is going to be in quadrant 1. So for quadrant 1, I have to name 2 points. So any ordered pair with a positive x, positive y is in quadrant 1. So 1, 2. That's in quadrant 1. What else? 3, 4. It's also in quadrant 1, right? Now look at quadrant 2. Quadrant 2, all points with this part of my x. So those are my negative numbers, right? So a negative x with this part of my y is going to be in quadrant 2. So then, when I list my points in quadrant 2, it's going to be a negative x number with a positive y number. Does that make sense? It's negative, right? All of these numbers are negative here. This is negative 1, negative 2, negative 3, right? So it has to be negative x coordinate, and then paired with a positive y coordinate is going to be in quadrant 2. So, negative 1, positive 2. Negative 1, positive 2 is right there. It's in quadrant 2. Again, negative x, positive y. So, negative 3, positive y, 4. And then quadrant 3, again, any numbers or any ordered pairs paired with a negative x with this part of the y-axis, so that's negative also, right? So negative and a negative is going to be in quadrant 3. So this is going to be a negative x, negative y. So negative 1, negative 2. Here's negative 1, here's negative 2. Another one, negative 3, negative 4. And then for quadrant 4, again, positive x. And how about the y? So it's going to be any ordered pairs paired with this side and this side, right? So positive x, negative y. Positive x, 1. Negative y, negative 2. Positive x, 3. Negative y, negative 4. So those 2 points are going to fall under quadrant 4. And the fourth example, we're just going to graph more points on this coordinate plane. Okay, I didn't number them. Just go ahead and number them right now. So 1, 2, 3, 4. Let's go up to 5. Negative 1, negative 2, negative 3, negative 4. 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay. So the first point, A. I know this is going to be my x number, this my y number. So 0 on my x number is right here. Okay, on this right here, 0. 3 on my y number is right here. Okay, that means my y is going to be 3 and my x is going to be 0, meaning I'm not going to have negative 1. I'm not going to have 1 as my x. I'm going to have 0. So it's going to be that point right there. This is A. The next one is negative 2, negative 1. Negative 2 on my x, 1, negative 2, my x, negative 1 on my y. Okay, they meet right there. Here's B. Then C is going to be negative 5 and then 0 as my y. Remember, if my y is 1, I go up 1. My y is negative 1, I go down 1. Right there, right? But it's 0. My y is 0. That means I don't move up or down. I stay put. That is my C. And then my last point, D, is going to be 4 and negative 6. So negative 6 on my y-axis. It's right here. So they meet right there. And that point is labeled D. Okay, so that's it for this lesson. Thank you for watching Educator.com.